There was a moment when you hit the ground so hard, you were not sure you would ever get back up. This is that moment. You sat with your failures around you, every crumpled attempt, every door that closed, and you wondered, is this it for me? You watched others move forward while you stayed still, and the silence of being left behind was louder than anything anyone ever said to you. You looked in the mirror and did not recognize yourself. Somewhere along the way, you had lost the thread back to who you were. The world kept sending you its answers, and every answer was no, and you had to sit with that again and again without breaking completely. You stood in the rain without shelter, not because you were strong, but because you had nowhere else to go. And sometimes that is enough. Then one quiet night, you picked up a pen, you sat with a blank page, and something inside you whispered, not yet, not done yet. It was not a lightning bolt. It was not a dramatic moment. It was just a head lifting, a pair of eyes opening, a tiny spark refusing to die. You pressed your hands into the ground, and for the first time in a long time, you felt something solid beneath you, something real, something that could hold your weight. And then, slowly, you began to rise, not because everything was okay, but because something in you decided it was time. You stood up, unsteady, uncertain, but upright. And that, after everything, was the most important thing you had ever done. One step, just one. It did not feel like much, but that single step was the beginning of something nobody around you could see yet. You went back to the work, quietly, without applause, without anyone watching, because this time, you were not doing it for them. You were doing it for you. You knocked on the door again, the one that had closed on you before, not because you were sure it would open, but because you were no longer willing to walk away. You picked up the failure and looked at it differently this time, not as proof that you could not, but as a map, showing you exactly where to go next. And slowly, the face in the mirror began to come back. Not all at once, just a little, just enough to remind you were still in there. The path was uphill. It was always going to be uphill, but your feet kept moving. And that was the only thing that mattered. You fell again. Of course you did. The comeback was never going to be a straight line, but you got back up. Again. And that changed everything. You turned around and looked at how far you had climbed, and for the first time, you could not believe it was you. But it was. It had always been you. Something was returning, quietly, steadily. The belief that maybe, just maybe, this was not the end of your story. Maybe it was only the middle. And then, you walked into the light, not because someone carried you there, but because you chose, step by step, to keep moving until you found it. You looked at everything you had built in the dark, every page, every effort, every quiet act of courage when no one was watching. And you realized this was yours, all of it. You looked in the mirror, and this time, you recognized the person looking back. They had not disappeared. They had just been waiting, patiently, for you to find your way back. The door was open, the one that had been closed so many times before. And this time, you walked through it, because you had finally stopped waiting for permission. You held what you had rebuilt, not with triumph, with something quieter and deeper than that, with the knowledge of exactly what it cost and exactly why it was worth it. You looked back at the road, every fall, every closed door, every night in the rain with nowhere to go, and instead of pain, you felt something unexpected. Gratitude, because every single step brought you here. And if you could reach back to the version of you lying on the ground in the very beginning, you would hold out your hand and you would say, "Get up. I know how this ends. And it is worth it." The light inside you was never gone. It was just waiting for you to stop running from yourself long enough to feel it again. There is a new path ahead. And this time, you are not walking it broken. You are walking it whole, rebuilt, stronger in every place you were once cracked. This was the comeback nobody expected. Nobody, except the quiet part of you that never stopped believing. Even when you did, that part knew. It always knew, and it was right.